Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be tackling the wheel bearings on the LX470. Now, it's been about 40 to 45,000 miles since I last did this job. The schedule says that the wheel bearings should be packed every 30,000 miles. Obviously, I'm over that. When I had done the wheel bearings, it was my first time attempting this job. So it's going to be interesting to see what the wheel bearings and everything internally look like. This isn't going to be necessarily a how-to video, but I'm really interested to see how everything looks after 40,000+ miles. So let's get this thing jacked up and let's get to it. All right, now that the wheel is off, you want to get this little dust cap off. What I'm going to use here is just a little chisel just to get in between there to kind of separate it and then work its way out. Just be careful if you're using something like a chisel or something sharp to get in between there. Be careful because the splines for the axle are behind this dust cap and you obviously do not want to hit them. So I'm going to work on that, get that off, and then once we get that off, we're going to start taking these nuts off here. All right, finally got the dust shield off. Even after putting anti-seize on it last time, it was still a pain in the butt to get off, but that's off. Probably take off the caliper next, and then we'll start taking off these bolts. All right, so I just got those nuts off. You probably can't tell it, but some of these threads are messed up. That's one reason I got a whole new set for this, just because I didn't want to have to deal with it. So I'm just gonna replace it with all new bolts and nuts. So what you want to do now is, if you have this, I mean, I could just hit them with a regular hammer because I'm not going to reuse these, but if you're going to reuse them, just get either a brass hammer or a brass rod like this so it doesn't mushroom the ends, and then you're just going to hit these. All right, so that one just popped out right there. That one just popped out there. And again, I use anti-seize on all of these too because I knew that I was going to get back into this job at some point in time. If you're going to own one of these, you're going to have to redo or repack your wheel bearings at one point in time. So that's why I use anti-seize on it. These are actually coming out a lot easier than they did the first time I did this. So I'm going to get all these out, and then we'll take off this flange and then kind of see how it looks. All right, now that we've gotten this far, we want to go ahead and take this nut off. So you're going to need one of these tools. Oh, before we do that, there's this little, I don't know what you want to call it. There's a little star pattern thing behind here, and one of the tabs is bent over here, so this nut cannot move. So we need to bend that back, and then we should be able to take that off. So let's take a little screwdriver here. All right, now that that's pushed back, should be able to put this on now. Yep, and then we're gonna go ahead and loosen that up. All right, we've got that taken off, and then we should just be able to pull that piece off. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Then we're gonna go ahead and take this one off. All right, and right behind that is our outer wheel bearing. Try to get this whole assembly off and move it to the table. So it seems like with every project that I do, there's always some bit of a hiccup. Not a huge deal, but if you see these threads, they're a little wonky. So those bolts is what was holding the rotor onto the hub. And if you can see down in there, they're really shiny. So for some reason, I don't know why. I mean, it was on there nice and tight, but for some reason, some of the threads got messed up. So that's a M12 by 1 1/4 thread pitch. So I'm looking for a tap and die for that right now, so I can clean up all these and then take all this stuff out, start cleaning the center of the hub before I can then start putting everything back together. So where we're at right now, I wanted to replace these two, so I got a whole kit to replace all these, which these are the ones right here that hold the flange on. Well, whenever I took these out, they came out easy enough, but if you look at the threads, they're all shiny. And they're all shiny, which means these are some wonky threads too. So I don't have a tap that's an M10 by 1 1/4 thread pitch. So I'm gonna go pick that up right now. So after we get those put in, we're gonna do the races and then the wheel bearings, and pack it with grease, and start putting this thing back together. All right, so I'm ready to go ahead and press in the outer race. This is a, what does that say, 72 millimeter. You can get a little press kit like this, comes in handy. Anyways, it's just gonna sit right over top there, and I'm gonna press it all the way down, hit it with my hammer, that is, all the way down until it's flush with that ring at the bottom. And then once it's flush, I'll bring you back, show you what it looks like. I don't know if it's controversial or not. I looked at my repair manual. It did not say to grease the race around the outside, or I guess that'd be the inside, and then press it. It just said to press it in. So I'm assuming you do it dry. Some people say they use lubrication, some people say they don't, they just press it in. I didn't see it in the repair manual. I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. I don't know, we'll see. But I'm just gonna go ahead and press it in right now. I'll bring you back once it's sitting flush against that line at the bottom. So that took about all of 30 seconds. Actually, it went in pretty smooth. And this is looking from the back side. You can see there that it is flush against the back side on that lip. So I'm gonna flip this thing over. We're gonna put in the inner race and then start packing this thing and get it ready to reinstall. All right, so I thought I had the correct size press for this inner race. However, my tools only go to a 81 millimeter, and the race is a 90 millimeter. So I had to go to Advance. They have this toolkit. This is a 3.53 inch, and 90 millimeters, I believe, converts to 3.54 inches. So this is just a little bit smaller than that. So it should fit on there. We should be able to press this in nice and snug. So I'm just gonna press it till we get right there on the lip, and then move on to the next step. All right, so with some light in there, this is looking from the opposite side. You can see that it is flush against that ledge right there. So that tool worked a treat. All right, so next thing up, I'm gonna go ahead and dress the front here with these bolts, and then move on from there. So now I'm gonna go ahead and fit the rotor, and we'll go from there. All right, rotor is in, rotor. Yeah, that's right. All right, the rotor's installed. All bolts are in, 54 foot-pounds. Also, this rotor that I decided to go with is Advix, I guess that's how you say it, Advix. But the reason I went with this is because this is OEM replacement for Toyota and Lexus. And if you see here on the side, it's part of the ASIN group. So if you know ASIN is the OEM parts manufacturer for these guys. So Advix is just underneath ASIN, but that's them. Just go find these on Rock Auto. Also, I'm going with solid rotor because the cross-drilled and slotted, no one would resurface. So it's not, you can't resurface them. They just said that they were concerned that I guess the bit would catch in one of those lips or something like that, and it could mess up the bit and the machine. So this is what I'm going with. It should be just fine. Also, I got the Advix pads up there, and they are ceramic, so they should be low dust and just do the job that I need to do. With all that being said, it's time to grease the center here, and then we're gonna do the outer bearing or the inner bearing. This bearing that goes here, the big bearing. There's the inner barrel all greased up, and then also put some on that race as well. Now I'm gonna get my packing tool, and then we're gonna pack that larger inner bearing. All right, so this is the tool that I got, and I had one before the last time I did this, but it wasn't big enough to do the inner bearing. So I got a different one, and then as you can see, all the grease is pushed up through all the holes as you would want. And then also went ahead and greased the outside. So we're gonna get a little bit more of that grease, and we're gonna go ahead and take that bearing, put it right there, and then we're gonna put the seal and keep it in place. Now, if you saw my last video, I'm gonna do this sill the exact same way I did last time, and I'm gonna get a block of wood, put it over flat, and I'm just gonna evenly put this down into place. And you know you're good once it is flush. Always be careful of this ABS ring. You don't want to damage that. All right, so this block of wood here, cover that with a napkin, put this on top. Couple whacks, it's nice and flush all the way around. So we're good there. I'm gonna put some of this grease along the inner lip here, and then flip this thing over and get the outer bearing put in. All right, so it's time to grease the spindle. You can buy this at Slee Off-Road. I think it's like 35 bucks or something like that. But basically what it does, it fits over the spindle, and what it does, it pushes grease over the axle within the spindle all the way to the back here, where at the back of this knuckle you have a needle bearing, and what the grease does is it greases that needle bearing, and you'll know that you're good when this axle starts pushing out. I'm gonna set this down here. I'm gonna start pumping grease, and you should see this move. I might keep pushing until you see the grease come out, but I think generally speaking, they say as long as you see the axle move, you should be good. All right, the gun is hooked up, and I'm starting to grease the spindle. Should start seeing it, and that should be good. I'm gonna go to a little more grease. I guess that grease out. So it's been a while since this has been done. Well, 40,000 miles. So I want to make sure it gets all the way in there. But that's it. Your spindle is now greased. So is that needle bearing, and now I'm gonna go ahead and dress the rest of that hub and put this thing back on. All right, so the passenger side is almost completely finished. One of the things I wanted to show you, as you can see here, there's not even a groove. So remember we put remember we greased the spindle earlier. So I have to actually grab the axle from behind and then pull it through. And as you start pulling it through, you can start seeing more of those splines, but we still have to go even more because we're not even close to where we can put a snap ring on yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten down this flange, and after we get the flange completely tightened down, we should have some of that groove exposed, and then we can find out what snap ring we need to put in. All right, now that I got the flange put on and torqued properly, a little bit of that gap showed up. And then, so I put a snap ring on. I was trying E, which is what I had on before. And on this side, E fit again. I don't know what that does or doesn't mean, but yeah, the other side needed a smaller one, and this one fit appropriately. And as you can see, it's pretty tight onto the flange. So I call that good. Put the dust shield back on, and then move on to getting the brakes done. All right, guys, so the Lexus is complete. I know this has been kind of a hodgepodge video of everything's been everywhere. I don't know. What did we learn, and what was the whole purpose of this video? Well, the purpose of this video is not a how-to, but it was to see how the bearings look after 40,000 miles. So what did I conclude? So this right here, this is the driver's side. And again, you see the scoring in there, which that scoring there was the same that was on the spindle. And this is the outer bearing. The races for outer and inner look great. And then we go to the inner bearing, and a little bit of wear, but nothing crazy. So that's the driver's side. Now we come over here to the passenger side. Outer bearing. There you can see. And you know, you guys in the comments that may know bearings more than me, you know, is this due to like a bind or like a heat issue that's causing these wear marks in the bearing? But that's the outer bearing right there. And then here is the inner bearing, very much like the driver's side. Not a whole lot to it. And then I don't remember which hub or which side of the vehicle this one came off of, but this is the inner bearing from when I first got the vehicle. And you can see that this one has a lot more surface damage than the ones that I replaced last time. Still, maybe not horrible, but this one does look worse than that one and that one. You guys let me know in the comments if you guys have done wheel bearings before, especially on these 100 series. You know, is that normal? Is that excessive wear? Is that because the nut was too tight and it caused some binding and then just heat buildup? I don't know, you let me know. That's 40,000 miles right there. I'm not an expert at this, but I'm actually gonna keep all these bearings because in another 30, 40,000 miles when I do this job again, I wanna see if the ones that I just put on look just like these or if the wear pattern looks better. But this is really my first foray into doing 100 series wheel bearings. So we'll see what this next set does. All right, guys, I just wanted to throw this in the video. I don't know where I'm gonna put it, but this is a couple weeks after the fact. I've driven about 1,000 miles and I decided to pull the outer bearings again because I wanted to check the wear on them since there was wear after I had initially done this job. You know, 40,000 miles were on the other bearings. So just for reference again, this was the passenger side outer bearing. This is the driver side outer bearing. So you can see where the wear is on those. So this is the driver side bearing this time. Very minimal wear. I'm actually really happy about this. But then if you look at the passenger side, there's a whole lot more wear. And I actually torqued these less than I did this one. And this passenger has less wear than this passenger. And this is after 40,000 miles, and this is after 1,000 miles. So I don't know, I'm just confused by that, but I wanted to pull them because I wanted to see what it would look like after 1,000 miles. And it's a pretty easy job to do, so I figured why not. I'm gonna put in a new bearing right now. I'm about to go ahead and grease it up. But I don't know, leave down in the comments below, what do you think caused that, you know, that scoring already on the passenger side wheel bearing? Well, that's gonna officially do it. I got the last wheel bearing in. So after doing, if you follow the process of the FSM, this is the manual that I have, but it says after you do the initial tightening and setting it, so you're gonna break it loose, and then you want to retighten the adjusting nut 38 to 57 inch-pounds. So just this spec right here, like I've already, well, not technically, I have over torqued the adjusting nut because I did 5 foot-pounds. So that's just under 5 foot-pounds right there. So I think it's pretty easy for you to over torque these, and I don't think that you need a lot of torque after you have the bearing settled on in the hub. And then obviously you use a spring tension gauge. It does not give a specific one, but a spring tension gauge to check the preload, and it says here starting at 9.5 to 15 pounds. So like I said, this is the 5 foot-pounds is the least amount that I've ever torqued it. However, I still think it's probably over torqued whenever you look at these specifications right here. I don't know if that's gonna be enough or not, or I should say, I don't know if that's gonna be too much or not. And 5 foot-pounds doesn't seem much, but after you set all those wheel bearings, like everything's pretty snug, nothing's moving. And even when you do it hand tight, like you could still try to move the rotor and stuff in the hub and it doesn't move. So honestly, I don't even think you need that much more torque on that adjusting nut to keep everything where it's supposed to be. So we'll see. I just did 5 foot-pounds on both sides. I'm not doing any more. Actually, honestly, I think it should be less. But you know, I'll see in about 30,000 miles. So probably sometime next year, I'm gonna be taking these out and looking at them again. So we'll see then. Then also, I'm gonna find what Lexus uses or an equivalent. And the next time I do this, I'm gonna use that. And I guarantee I probably won't even get to that 5 foot-pounds of torque that I did today. But you know, that's why we do these things. I don't think it's really gonna damage anything necessarily, having it how it is, but since this is my vehicle, this is kind of like my own experiment to help you guys, but also help myself understand exactly how much these should be torqued down and how much pressure should be put on that outer bearing so it can still function without binding. But that's going to be it. I'm getting ready to go to drive this. There's no movement or any play in it right now. I don't suspect there will be. But yeah, I hope this video was somewhat helpful or you found it insightful.